All right, the date, October 30th, 1927. The time, well, it was a Monday Night Football, I can tell you that much. But give me a second here. Hold on. Football at the Polo Grounds today, 2:45. Be there. Just in case you're interested, there are general admission seats for 50 cents. The entire lower level stands is $1.10. Reserve seats, $1.65. And box seats, best seats in the house, $2.20. There will be a band concert at 2 o'clock. So be there or be square. Whoa. The teams, the Pottsville Maroons at the New York Football Giants. The place, or else, baby, the Polo Grounds. The Giants, the week before, they just come from a home and home with the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets on the Saturday the 22nd. The Giants played in Frankfurt, and then on Sunday the 23rd they played in the Polo Grounds. This would also be the second time this season here. Let me pop this up, that the Giants and the Pottsville Maroons played one another. They played one another on October 9th. So what we got? Basically, this is the second time within like 3 weeks that they're playing each other. The Giants came into this game. They're pretty much on a roll. They stumbled out of the blocks. This is obviously 1927 for the Giants. This is their championship season. They were 11-1-1. Now they stumbled out of the blocks. They actually stumbled out. They were 1-1-1. So they did wind up winning their final 10 games. And their final 10 games, 8 of them were by shutout. Their defense was absolutely phenomenal. They 11-1-1. They played 13 games. They gave up 20 points in 13 games. I mean, just absolutely freaking incredible. 1.5 points per game they gave up. I mean, the Giants did not give up a successful field goal try all season long. Matter of fact, they only gave up 2 successful. The ball was put over the crossbar by the opposing team against the Giants in the 1927 season only 2 times. It was only there was 3 touchdowns were scored against the Giants in the 1927 season. They had 2 extra points, 2 successful extra point tries. That was it. So the Giants stumbled out of the blocks, but then they just started rolling. They had it. They tied the Cleveland Bulldogs, and they beat the Pottsville Maroons. Then they lost to the Cleveland Bulldogs, so they were 1-1-1. But then, after that, they were just on a roll. They went 13-0, 27-0, 16-0, 21-0, 25-0, 28-7, then 13-7. All right. Then they went 14-0, 13-0. I mean, even at the end of the season, the day after Christmas, I'm going to go over these games as well too in this little series here. The Giants actually played. The Giants played a ton of games this season. It's not even just crazy. They played the Staten Island Stapletons 2 times. But they were exhibition games. They were non-league games because the Staten Island Stapletons were not part of the league. Let's see. They played the Staten Island Stapletons on Thanksgiving, right? But after the season was over with, the Giants finished. They beat the New York Yankees back-to-back weeks, December 4th and December 11th. The Giants beat the New York Yankees. Pretty much to finish their season off. And they were champions. They were 11-1-1. But after that, they still wound up playing. They played 5 exhibition games. 2 of them were at the. I'm going to say once again, I'm going to go do videos on all these games. But they played 2 games toward the end of at the end of December. Excuse me, just a second. Whew. Man, once again. I said, excuse me. But they played 2 games at the end of December after the season was over with. 2 exhibition games. One of them was, it depends upon how you, follow history and all that and everything. But the one game that they played was against the Homoni Indians. It was kind of a famous game or whatever. But anyway, the Homoni Indians was like a tribe out in Oklahoma. Somehow the Giants went and they went out and they played the Homoni Indians. Now, it was on the 18th, December 18th, was it? Yeah, December 18th. So they went out to Oklahoma to play the Indians, the Homoni Indians, and they lost 13-6. That was a pretty interesting game. Once again, I got some news clips on that, so I'll be doing a video on that. But then after that, they played another exhibition game the day after Christmas, and they beat the Arbuckle American Legion in California at Nevers Field, Santa Rosa, California. So they went all the way out to California, and they won 70-0. Then they played 3 additional games in 1928. Once again, I'll be doing videos on all these games, as I said, even the exhibition games. But this one here in particular, they wound up beating the Pottsville Maroons 16-0. This is the second time they played the Pottsville Maroons in 1927. They won the first one on October 9th, 19-0 in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Then this game here, Pottsville came to the Polo Grounds and the Giants won 16-0. Now, in the modern NFL, 16-0, that's understandable. That's kind of doable. Also 16-0, whatever, however many years ago, even nowadays, I think that's still understandable because you figure nowadays, if you kick 3 field goals and score a touchdown, you kick the extra point, that's 16 points. Or nowadays, you score 2 touchdowns, you go for the 2-point conversion 2 times, you make them both, now that's 16. But that's not the way it was back then. The 16 points are just a little odd. The way the Giants accumulated their 16 points, there was 3 things happen. Three things happened 2 times. Right, first thing happened 2 times was the Giants scored 2 touchdowns. So you got 6 points and you got 6 points. So that's 12 points. The second thing that happened 2 times was the Giants missed both extra points. Okay, on both of them. So now you still got 12 points. The third thing that happened 2 times was that the Giants, and one of these is very comical. There's a little story behind this. As I read the article, I'll go over the story. But obviously, to get to 16 points, you got to score 4. The Giants have 12. Well, you got to score 4. So the only way you can score 4 is either you kick 4 extra points without scoring touchdowns, but that doesn't happen. But the only way is there was 2 safeties. They said one of the safeties was rather comical. And I said there's a story behind it, and I'll go over the story as I'm reading the article. So it's very, very funny. But 16-0. Once again, the Giants' defense was just really good. As I said, the Giants played 13 games, 11-1-1. They played 13, and they had 10 shutouts. The defense was just really good. But as I try to do usually with when we're playing these teams, especially like aren't around anymore, I try to I go to pull out good old Wikipedia, right? And I just try to give you a little background on the team or maybe how their season was going and all that and everything. And as I go through Wikipedia and I read like the history of the Pottsville Maroons, one thing that surfaces all the time is the 1925 season. It goes both ways. You can look at it like they were the champions and they got screwed out of it. Another thing you can say because they didn't listen to Joseph Carr, right? The commissioner. Sorry, I got to move my legs. My dog is down below, and I got to try to move my legs without hitting him. Apparently, so they did not listen to Joseph Carr, the commissioner, who warned them not to play a certain game. They got basically they should have won the title, could have won the title, but they played a game basically just for money, and they wound up losing the title. So it's very, very interesting. So, but the 1927 season, I said for one season, the Pottsville Maroons, 1925, and actually before that, they were a very good team. Now, I've said this many times, to get into the NFL, obviously, you're going to need to pay some money to get in, and all that and everything. But it wasn't like, you just, he went into an audience and anybody want to join the NFL? Oh, yeah, I'll go. I got some guys. Oh, yeah, okay, all right. Well, what's your team's name? Okay, that's a nice name. All right, well, you got $500 or $2,500 to join. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, well, you're in the league. Congrats now. You got to be a good team. You got to earn your way in. And, obviously that's, very important. You just don't want, obviously, bad teams. And there were some very bad teams in the NFL back then. But you had to earn your way in. So the Pottsville Maroons, as we're going to read through their history here, were a very good team. And then, after the 1925 season, when, coulda, shoulda, woulda, whatever, won the championship, they just started declining ever so bit. But the 1927 season for Pottsville was not very, very good. And actually, they wound up after, I believe, the 28 season, they wound up getting, maybe sold back to the league. We'll read it, and they wound up getting moved to Boston. They were in Boston for 1 year, and Boston back then was not a good for attracting an audience, for attracting a crowd, for getting fans in the stands, for getting rear ends in the seats. It was not good back then. It's good nowadays when you got Belichick and Brady winning your Super Bowls, and all of a sudden everybody, woo, go Patriots, right? Well, it won't be like that anymore because Belichick and Brady ain't there no more. So might be a long time waiting for them Patriots to win another Super Bowl. But anyway, back then, Boston was not a hot spot, shall we say, for professional football. The Boston Redskins, actually, they were the Boston Braves. They came into the league in 1932, and they were from 1932 to 1936. They were in Boston. They were the Braves, and then they changed the name to the Redskins. After 1936, that's when they went to Washington, and it became the Washington Redskins. But the reason why they moved from Boston to Washington, they just could not get fans in the stands. So, but anyway, as I said, the 1927 season for the Pottsville Maroons was not a banner season. Coming into this game, what were they? They were 3-3. Well, actually, I'm sorry. They were 2-3. Their first win was against the Shenandoah Red Jackets, which is a non-league game. So coming into this game, they beat the Buffalo Bisons, the Providence Steamroller, but they lost to the Cardinals, they lost to the Giants, and they lost to the Duluth Eskimos. So they lost. They lost. They were 2-3. Now let's see. They lost. Their offense was at times non-existent. They got shut out quite a few times. They lost to the Eskimos 27-0. They lost twice to the Giants 19-0 and 16-0. They lost to the Cardinals 19-7. They lost to the Yellow Jackets 10-0. They beat the Eskimos 6-0. They beat the Steamrollers 6-0. So their offense was not super spectacular. Their overall record for this season, they were 7-8 overall, but they were 5-8 in the NFL. All right, so once again, they were in 8th place. Right. So the 1927 Pottsville Maroons season was their 3rd in the league. The team failed to improve on their previous league output of 10-2-2, winning only 5 games. They finished 8th in the league standing. So the year before, let's see, 19, they were 10-2-2. Really, really good. Let's see what we got. It's a shame because they lost the game to the Chicago Bears 9-7. Their second to last game, they lost to the Chicago Bears 9-7. So the 2 seasons, 25 and 26, the Pottsville Maroons were very, very good. So let's go over the history here of the Pottsville Maroons, and this will give you a little bit of an indication, okay, as far as where they came from. They were good in the mid-20s. They were good, and then sadly their decline. All right. Okay, the Pottsville Maroons were an American football team based in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. That's straight out of Wikipedia, in the northeastern part of the state. Founded in 1920, they played in the National Football League from 1925 to 1928. In 1929, they relocated to Boston, where they played one season as the Boston Bulldogs. The team was founded as the Pottsville 11, an independent team playing in the local Eastern Pennsylvania circuit. Home games were played at Minersville Park, a high school stadium in nearby Minersville. They joined the local Anthracite League in 1924. The same year, they adopted the Maroons nickname and won the league title. The next season, they joined the NFL under owner John G. Striegel. It's either Striegel or Striegel. I'm not sure. Streigel. But though dominant on the field, a controversial suspension cost them the 1925 NFL championship. They were reinstated the following year, but after two successive losing seasons in 27 and 28, I'll say Striegel. Right? Striegel sold the Maroons to a group in Boston where they played one season before folding. 1925 was their best season. The 1928 roster included three future Hall of Famers: Johnny Blood McNally, Walt Kiesling, and Wilbur Pete Henry, but posted the worst record in franchise history. Let's see. Okay. So their origins, like other coal towns in eastern Pennsylvania, Pottsville had been fielding football teams from at least the 1910s. The team that became the Maroons was established in 1920 as the Pottsville 11 and had a roster mostly made up of firemen from the Yorkville Hose Company. The team was initially unaffiliated with any league, playing on the independent circuit against other teams from the coal mining towns of eastern Pennsylvania. In 1922, the team attracted the sponsorship of area businessmen Harry Kingsbury, Irvin Hines, and Frank Schoenman, who brought in talented professional players such as Carl Beck, Benny Boynton, and Stan Cofield. Still, the team maintained a strong local presence by recruiting many Pottsville natives to its roster. The result was a team with consistent winning records and strong crowds. Now, the strong crowds is huge. No team can survive for the most part. I mean, if you don't have strong crowds, you got to have that attendance. All right, so the Anthracite League. In 1924, local surgeon John G. Doc Striegel purchased the Pottsville 11 for $1,500. That year, teams in the local circuit decided to form a league, which became known as the Anthracite League. This was also the year the team adopted the Maroons name, according to legend. The team placed an order for new football jerseys with local sporting goods supplier Joe Zacco, telling him that the color was not important. Zacco sent them 25 maroon jerseys, giving birth to the name. During the 1924 Anthracite league season, the Maroons added three members of the NFL's 1923 Canton Bulldogs championship team to their roster. These players were Larry Conover, Harry Robb, and future Hall of Fame inductee Wilbur Pete Henry. NFL President Joseph Carr was not pleased to see stars like Henry deserting the league to play for an independent coal region team, but there was little he could do about it unless Pottsville joined the league. A suit filed for Henry's former NFL team was thrown out on a technicality by a Pennsylvania judge. The Maroons then posted a 6-1 record against Anthracite League teams and clinched the league title that November with a victory over Coaldale. Immediately after winning the Anthracite League title, the Maroons issued challenges to both the NFL champion Cleveland Bulldogs and the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, who claimed the Eastern Professional Championship. When neither team accepted, Striegel scheduled a game with the NFL's Rochester Jeffersons, who had not beaten an NFL opponent since 1921. Yeah, they were not very good. The Jeffersons were not very good. These two teams met in a season finale on the last Sunday in November. Rochester managed to defeat Pottsville 10-7, giving the Maroons their only loss of the season. However, Pottsville ended its 1924 season with an overall record of 12-1-1, scoring 288 points and only allowing 17 while capturing the Anthracite League title. Very impressive. So the NFL. The Anthracite League collapsed after the season, but Striegel and the Maroons were undeterred. They applied for and received a franchise in the NFL. This was somewhat unusual as the team's Minersville Park was a relatively small high school field. The league administration may have been attracted by the favorable logistics of a second team near the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's blue laws, which prohibited football on Sundays in Philadelphia, but were simply not followed in Pottsville. In Philadelphia, back then, the blue laws, you could not play sporting events on a Sunday. It was the same thing even with baseball. The Philadelphia Athletics could not play. If they were playing at home, they did not play baseball games on Sunday. So there was the blue laws, but they were not noticed or followed, shall we say, in Pottsville, which is about 75 to 100 miles outside of Philadelphia. Depends upon how the crow flies, right? So the blue laws that didn't have any effect on Pottsville. So Pottsville could play football games on Sunday at home. So it was kind of like I don't want to say a win-win, but I mean, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets could play at home in Philadelphia on Saturday, and then on Sunday you got another almost Philadelphia team or close to Philadelphia team in Pottsville. So it was fantastic for the league. So you had 2 days that they played football during the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So that was big back then. Let's see, Pottsville allowing traveling teams to play the Yellow Jackets on Saturday and then headed to Pottsville on Sunday. Now, a lot of teams did that. Just to basically, it just seemed like back then, obviously, you wanted to win a championship, you wanted to win, all that stuff. But it seemed like the big thing was, show me the money. I love the money. So, it would seem more important to the guys. I said once again, they won the championship. It wasn't like they were going to be all bummed out about it. But, if you could play a game on Saturday and then you get demolished on Sunday because you're playing back-to-back games, you're tired, you're beat up. A lot of guys were injured and all that, and they're playing the second game the next day against a fresh Pottsville Maroon team. And quite often, especially back in the 1925 season, the first year for the Giants, it happened quite a few times in the beginning of the season. And more often than not, the second day when the teams went to play in Pottsville, they were one of the games I can't remember was that Pottsville lost like 6-0 or something like that, but they totally outplayed the team. I think it might have been the Canton Bulldogs. I'd have to go back and look. But usually what it was Frankfurt played the team on Saturday, and that team would go on Sunday and play in Pottsville, and they would get totally beat up because they were beat up. But I mean, it was, if you were making $100 a game, right? And you get back in 1925, 26, 27, I mean, that was a lot of money. So after you play 2 football games in a weekend, you come home with $200. Whew, man, you're living good. So it wasn't so much, obviously winning and all of that. Obviously they wanted to win. They want to win. Don't get me wrong there, but it was also about show me the money, right? Let's say, since many Maroon players moved back to their NFL teams in 1925, the Maroons recruited several talented players to replace them. These included former Army great Walter French and Jack Ernst, a quarterback from Lafayette College. Another Army recruit, and Eddie Doyle, later served in World War II and was the first American killed in the landings in North Africa. Topping this collection of stars was Charlie Berry, possibly the best athlete on the team. After a spectacular athletic career at Lafayette College, he signed both pro baseball and pro football contracts. However, the strong talent was expensive and difficult to make up even with sellout crowds at the Minersville Park. Yes, I mean, that was one of the things. You can have sellouts, but if your park can only hold so many people, you can only make so much money. So that was definitely a problem that the Pottsville team had. During this time, the Maroons insisted that their players live in the Pottsville area. During the 1920s, most players had to travel great distances from their homes and only join their teams on game day. By having the players live in Pottsville, coach and former Colgate University assistant Dick Rauch, R-A-U-C-H, instituted regular practices for his players. This helped the Maroons to a 28-0 win over the Buffalo Bisons in their first NFL game. When not practicing, the Maroons spent their days hanging around the firehouse, drinking Yingling, playing cards, and tossing footballs in the street. The Maroons jumped out to a 9-1-1 record. However, some believe that having visiting teams play Frankfurt the day before the Maroons benefited the team. It did, big time. Pottsville was 5-1-0 in their 6 games against teams that played the Yellow Jackets the previous day. But their one loss that they had in 1925 at home to teams that played the Yellow Jackets, I forgot who it was. I said it might have been Can. I think they lost like 6-0. They totally outplayed the team. I can't remember how the team scored a touchdown, but the team they lost, that beat them, right? I mean, they outplayed them. So every time that a team played the Frankfurt Yellow in 1925, played the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets on Saturday, and then went to play the Pottsville Maroons on Sunday, they were totally beat up. So Pottsville always had the advantage. Always had the advantage. Let's see. So then toward the end of the season, Pottsville and Chicago Cardinals were the 2 top teams in the league, having comparable records. At the time, the NFL championship went to the team with the best overall winning percentage against other NFL teams. As such, the matchup between the two was in great importance. So the Cardinals and Pottsville played each other. The Maroons met the Cardinals in late November near the end of the season for a game in Chicago's Comiskey Park under snowy conditions. The Maroons won the game 21-7, thereby pulling them ahead of the Cardinals in the championship race. Now here's where we have the controversy right here. With the 1925 season near its end, the Maroons had the best record and had defeated the rival Cardinals, essentially ensuring the NFL championship. Before the season ended, however, the Maroons were suspended by NFL Commissioner Joseph Carr, thus denying them the championship title. This has been the subject of a controversy ever since. So we got earlier in the year, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets had scheduled an exhibition game between former University of Notre Dame stars and the best NFL team in the East. As the NFL's dominant Eastern team at the time, they believed they themselves would get to play the potentially lucrative match against the Notre Dame All-Stars. However, when Pottsville later pulled ahead in the standings, they won the right to play the All-Stars. As Pottsville's Minersville Park was a high school stadium with a capacity of only around 6,000, team owner John Striegel booked the much larger Shea Park in Philadelphia for the big game. Philadelphia, though, was within the Yellow Jackets' designated territory, and Frankfurt complained to the league. Commissioner Carr warned Striegel several times that Pottsville franchise would be suspended if they played in Philadelphia. Yeah, they shouldn't have played. Not wanting to give up a potential financial windfall for his team, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. Striegel went ahead with the game. He would later claim he had received verbal permission from the NFL by telephone, which apparently he did not, though he gave inconsistent responses as to which official he had spoken to. The Maroons won the game 9-7, which was considered a major win for the professional football. But the match only attracted about 8,000 fans, a major financial disappointment, as threatened by Carr, he suspended Pottsville and removed them from the NFL, preventing them from finishing their schedule. So they got suspended, and the Cardinals wound up winning the 1925 championship. Now, Cardinals won 2 championships in the NFL, 25 in 1947, and if it wasn't for that. Basically, if it wasn't for all about the money, the Pottsville would not have played that game against, or if he played it in Minersville Park, he would have been fine. But because he scheduled the game in the territory of the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, that was a no-no. Can't do that. But interesting. This is funny. They returned back. They got suspended. They got kicked out of the league, never to be returned again in 1925. However, 1926, that was a new year. It was a new story. Beginning of a new era, right? Returned to the NFL. The NFL reinstated the Maroons the very next season. The league feared that the Maroons would jump to the threatening American Football League. In 1926, for one season, there was the American Football League, who's it's a long story, so I'm not going to go into it, but they were looking for teams and all. And so the Pottsville Maroons were a very good team. They were the best team, so to speak, in the NFL in 1925, and they got kicked out of the league. So Joseph Carr and all, they were fearing that the Pottsville Maroons would join the AFL. And they didn't want that. They didn't want the AFL succeeding. They wanted the AFL to fail. So they figured if Pottsville joined the AFL, that would help the AFL thrive and survive. And they said the NFL did not want that. So what did they do? The next year, after they kicked them out of the league, stripped them of the title, blah, 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 all this stuff and everything. The very next year, they pulled them. No, you can join back in. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. So 1926, they got reinstated. Unbelievable. Let's see here. All right. However, toward the end of the 1926 season, the Maroons management struggled to meet its financial obligations, and there were published reports of a strike among the team's players. The 1927 season saw a decline in the team's on-field performance. Pottsville lost several of its stars, and others were growing older, and finished the season with a disappointing 5-8 record. Doc Striegel relinquished operational control of the team for the 1928 season by loaning it to a group of three players, Herb Stein, Pete Henry, and Duke Osborne. Henry took over the coaching reins, but the downfall spiral continued. The Maroons ended what turned out to be their final season in Pottsville with a dismal 2-8 record. At the end of the season, the players were given a small football made of anthracite coal, a memento of the last season played in Pottsville. So then we have just the final thing here. We got the Boston Bulldogs. Striegel sold the club during the offseason to a New England-based partnership that included the Maroons standout George Keneally. The new owners relocated the franchise to Boston prior to the 1929 season, where it was renamed the Bulldogs. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. There was the Cleveland Bulldogs, the Canton Bulldogs, the Boston Bulldogs. Could you imagine it being like 13 teams in the NFL nowadays named the Cowboys? Kansas City Cowboys, the Buffalo Cowboys, the Pittsburgh Cowboys, the Cleveland Cowboys. I mean, it's even the Dallas Cowboys. Could you imagine? Crazy. The Bulldogs would be the first of a string of unsuccessful attempts of establishing an NFL team in Massachusetts, followed by the Boston Redskins in the 1930s, which relocated to Washington, D.C. in 1937, the Boston Yanks in the 1940s, which folded in 1948. It was not until 1970 when the American Football League's Patriots, established in 1960, joined the NFL that the league were able to establish a permanent residence in New England's most populous market in this regard. The Patriots required a hostile takeover to avoid being relocated in the 1990s. Well, anyway, they were the Boston Patriots from 1960 to 1970. In 1971, they became the New England Patriots. Let's see here. In that year, 29, I guess. 6 veteran Maroons players made the move with the team. Dick Rourke also returned to the fold, resuming his position as the head coach. Based in Boston's Braves field, the Bulldogs nonetheless had a 2-game swan song in their old stomping grounds, defeating both the Buffalo Bisons on October 27th at Minersville Park and the Orange, New Jersey Tornadoes on October 29th at Mitchell Field. The team folded at the season's end with a 4-4-0 record. Because the Washington Redskins began in 1932 as the Boston Braves, some Pottsville backers, with help from a few writers, have suggested that the team descended from the Maroons by way of the Boston Bulldogs. The 1932 Boston franchise, however, had no relationship to the 1929 Bulldogs. That team instead descended from the Tornadoes by way of the 1931 Cleveland Indians. It gets very, very complicated. I mean, there were so many teams back then. As teams came and went, some teams started the season and they folded in the middle of the season. It was like truly like the Wild Wild West. It's like nothing at all like it is nowadays. Just totally different. But so the Pottsville Maroons, without question, were a very, very good football team. For a few years. They had to be a very good team to get into the league. The first 2 years, 25 and 26, they were a very, very good team. And then, unfortunately, they started going downhill a little bit. And then also you figure, too, is like you get, once like 29, 1930, then you started getting into the depressions. And any team that had a hard time financially, like in 26, 27, 28, once the depression hit, I mean, it was either like, well, pay 50 cents to go see my football team play, or take 50 cents and go feed my family for a couple of days. Wasn't a very hard decision. So it kept a lot of people out of the ballparks. So a lot of teams folded, a lot of teams. So that was a little bit of a history of them. As I said, once again, the Maroons were a very good team. And if you got go back and the big kind, if you type it in, the 1925 NFL controversy, you'll get a nice long story. So they woulda, coulda, shoulda. The 1925 Pottsville Maroons woulda, coulda, shoulda been the NFL champions, but they weren't. All right, so I got quite a few little articles to read here about this game here that was played at the Polo Grounds on October 30th, 1927. The first one is going to go over one of the safeties that the Giants wound up getting in this game. It's just a funny story, really, really funny story. So let me go over, if I can find this here first. That's not it. All right, here we go. This one here. All right. Here we go. Pottsville beaten by football giants. New York backs behind a strong line scored 2 safeties and 2 touchdowns. One of the guys, Young Fleisch, I believe his name was, breaks his leg. Hard play forces several others out on both sides. Sharer was featured by Maroons. I guess he was a good. Say what was Sharer? Sharer. He was their right halfback, so I guess he had a good game for him. The broken legs in football games are by no means the exclusive prerogative, of college football players was demonstrated yesterday when the New York Football Giants defeated the Pottsville Maroons 16-0 before 20,000 persons at the Polo Grounds. Frank Youngfleisch, former Villanova stalwart, playing center for the Maroons, was carried out on a blanket to the clubhouse with a broken leg after a savage melee in the second quarter. It was the second casualty of the kind in 2 days, as Al Lassman from New York University, a New York University tackle, NYU tackle, sustaining a similar injury in Saturday's clash against Colgate at Yankee Stadium, which was only a few hundred feet away. They're right across the river from each other. Young Fleisch's was the most serious of several injuries that forced star players on both sides to take time out and to leave the game for respite. It was hot and heavy going through the four periods, and the 2 touchdowns and 2 safeties which the Giants got as the margin of victory were well earned. 8 of the points were garnered in the first period and the other 8 in the final quarter. 1 kick for the extra point was blocked and the other went wide. Jack McBride, former Syracuse star, penetrated the Pottsville line for more than 20 yards to tally the first touchdown. The other was a dashing play by the flashy Doug Wyckoff, once of Georgia Tech, when he intercepted a pass and whipped across the goal line in the final minute of play. As Hinkie Haynes tried to kick for the extra point, it went wide. The final whistle blew. So, Giants rise in the league race. The victory pushed the Giants further up the professional football ladder, and if their heavy line keeps up its impregnable defense and the backs their lance-like slices through the line, there is no reason why the Metropolitan team should not find itself on top of the heap. And they would be right. Pottsville brought New York a fighting team headed by a slender young named Schar, Scharer, once of Notre Dame. Schar disdained headgear and put on an exhibition of open field running, line plunging, and all-around going worthy of his alma mater. While Schar starred, however, he never had the protection and the interference accorded the Giant ball carriers. Despite the superiority of the Giant line, Pottsville put on a stand in the final quarter that was worthy of any football cause. With second down on the 3-yard line and third and fourth downs on the half-yard line, all the Giant backs and linesmen could not get a touchdown. Following the gaining of the ball by Pottsville on downs on the half-yard line occurred one of the rare plays in football, and it gave Giants 2 points on a safety. So the Giants got down there in the fourth quarter. Bam, there we go. So Giants got down, and the Giants were winning 8-0. They were driving. They got down to the half-yard line in the fourth quarter. It was third down, half a yard to go. They tried it, couldn't make it. Fourth down, about half a yard to go. Tried it, couldn't make it. The Pottsville wall stood right. So the game was still 8-0. So the Giants, as I said, I mean, they scored a touchdown. Kicked the extra point. Instead of they could have been up 15-0. Instead, they went from being up 8-0 to being up 10-0. And this is funny. This is kind of comical. The Giants were presented with a safety, basically just handed them a safety. Basically, Kirkleski stood so far behind his goal line to punt out of danger that he moved beyond the end zone and behind the goal post. Kicking from that position brought on a safety, and the former Lafayette back essayed the boot, although he was warned of his position by the officials. Following his punt, the ball was brought back to the 20-yard line where the Giants had to he had to kick again because there was a safety. Brought out to the 20. Right, they got to kick back off to the Giants once again. Now the thing is that. And this happened too in the week before with Hinkie Haynes. What it was is in up to 1926, the goalposts were on the goal line. Well, 1927, and this confused a lot of guys. It wasn't just in the couple of Giant games here. This happened quite often during the season. Well, the goalposts were taken from the goal line and they were put on the end line. So the players were so used to the goalpost being on the goal line that when they got moved all the way to the back, to the end line, a lot of players thought that was the goal line because they forgot that the goalpost got moved. So when they're looking at the goalposts, right, they're like, "Oh, that's the goal line right there." Okay, no, that was the back of the end zone. You know what I mean? So the guy, this Kirkleski, when he was punting, right, he was, he moved behind the goalpost because he thought the goalposts were on the goal line. So he's like, I'll go 5, 6, 7 yards behind the goal, 5 yards behind the goalpost, whatever he was, right? Because the goalposts are on the goal line, so I'll go behind the goal line. I'll be in my own end zone, receive the punt, receive the pass, and I'll kick it out of danger, and we'll be good to go. But no, actually what it was, the goalposts were on the end line. So when he was 4 or 5 yards behind the goal, he was like 4 or 5 yards off the field. So he's standing like out of the back of the end zone, like 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever, out of the end zone, receiving a snap. And apparently he was warned by the officials, I guess, a couple times. You're out of the field to play, right? Oh, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. So you got a guy, he's just standing out of the end zone. So as soon as the snap, as soon as he got the ball, as soon as he touched it, safety. So the Giants were given 2 points. Although if they had any better luck or whatever you want to call it, they had 3 cracks basically, I guess, from like the 2-yard line. They could have scored a touchdown, but they were basically given a safety there. But that was not obviously the end of the scoring. So the Giants had one more score to go. The Giants, after they kicked to the Giants, they punted the Giants with a free kick, I guess it was, from the 20-yard line. The Giants punted back, and Pottsville tried the forward passing attack, which had been their best means of gaining ground earlier in the game. One of these passes bounced from the outstretched fingers of a Pottsville receiver. It hit the hands of a Giant player, but also bounced from his hands before it touched the ground. Wyckoff was the Giants' starting right halfback, was under the ball, and away he ran for the final touchdown. And as I mentioned before, Hinkie Haynes tried the extra point. This is basically like the last play of the game, but Hinkie Haynes tried the extra point, which was the final play of the game. Went wide. The final whistle blew, and the Giants wound up winning. So the Giants scored a touchdown, missed an extra point, got a safety in the first period. Scored a touchdown on the final play of the game, pretty much. Scored a touchdown, missed the extra point, got a safety in the fourth period. So that's how you get your 16 to nothing. So the Giants really pretty much dominated this game here. All right, so we got let's see here. What we got? This one here. Gridiron Giants smother Maroons 16 to nothing. Nearly 20,000 fans saw Tim Mara's New York Giants run their current string of victories to 3 by scoring their second victory of the season over the vaunted Pottsville Maroons at the Polo Grounds yesterday afternoon by 16 to nothing score. Early in the opening period, the whole Giant backfield combined in a series of line smashes and end circling to advance the ball from their own 42-yard line to Pottsville's 16-yard ribbon, where the visitors' defense stiffened and New York lost the ball on downs. Following an exchange of kicks, McBride's fumble was recovered by Keneally, the former Notre Dame lineman, on his own 27-yard line. There, Roberts' punt attempt was blocked by Stallman, and with half a dozen men essaying to pounce on the bounding oval, Latone, Giant Pottsville Latone, a Giant Pottsville fullback, fell on it for the safety that gave the Giants their first 2 points. So I guess the ball was blocked, bounded and rolled and whatever back into the end zone. Latone, the Pottsville starting fullback, fell on it, but he was touchdown for safety. So the Giants got 2 points there. Soon thereafter, the locals advanced in machine style from their own 34-yard line to beyond midfield, where a fine pass from McBride to Corrigan moved it up to the Invaders' 22-yard line. There, McBride tore through left tackle behind splendid interference for the first touchdown, but Haynes' attempt at a kick from placement for the odd point failed. Corrigan intercepted a Pottsville pass near the end of the third period, and the final session opened with the Giants in possession of the ball on their opponent's 40-yard line. Off-tackle slants and a short end run by Haggerty, topped off by a pass Haggerty to Haynes, carried the attack to the Pottsville half-yard mark. There, however, the Giants were stopped in their tracks on 2 tries at the line, 3rd down and 4th down, like it was said in the other article, and the ball was lost on downs. Kirkleski dropped back to kick out of danger, but the pass carried him out of the goal zone, and although he got the kick away, it was counted as a safety for New York. Well, he was standing outside the end zone, and apparently he was warned by the refs. So near the close of the struggle, the Giants gained possession on their own 27-yard line after the Maroons had displayed their most sustained offensive of the afternoon in a spectacular pass. Wyckoff to Wilson netted 33 yards for the Giants. Latone intercepted a pass from McBride on his own 30-yard ribbon. But 2 plays later, Wyckoff snagged a Pottsville pass and raced 32 yards to a broken field for the second touchdown. Haynes failed to add the extra point. Now, in the one of the other articles, it mentioned that Jack McBride, one of his extra points was blocked. So in this article here, it says that Haynes tried both the extra points. So once again, a lot of things, don't always match up. Then I got the short article here. It says, New York Giants win from Pottsville 16-0. New York Giants of the National Professional Football League defeated the Pottsville Maroons today 16-0. It was an uninteresting game with Pottsville outclassed from the start. The Giants won on straight football, scoring 2 touchdowns and 2 safeties, and holding Pottsville just 2 first downs. McBride, former Syracuse star, scored the first touchdown on a 22-yard dash-off tackle. Wyckoff, ex-Georgia star, scored the other touchdown by intercepting a forward pass and running 35 yards in the final minute of play. A block kick and a bad pass from center provide the settings for the safeties. Well, the one wasn't necessarily a bad pass from center that resulted in a safety. Apparently, he passed the ball to the guy, but the guy was standing outside the end zone. All right, we got here. Oh, this is that's a long one. Let's see what else we got here. Pottsville loses in New York. Now, this is funny here because it says Pottsville loses in New York 18-0. Giants hand Maroons their second defeat of the season. 18-0. Well, they're only off by 2 points. The New York Football Giants took on the Pottsville Maroons at the Polo Grounds today. All Pottsville got was a lot of contusions. The Giants scored 2 touchdowns, one in the first period and one in the last period, and won the game by a score. Here it says 16-0. In the headlines, it read 18-0. There were about 20,000 persons present. With the ball on his 27-yard line, Roberts, a Pottsville back, attempted to punt. Stallman, the big tackle with the broken nose, his head guard strapped on tightly with adhesive tape, broke through and blocked a kick. The ball bounded back over the goal line with Stallman and a couple of other Giants taking turns diving at it and missing. It was Latone, the Pottsville fullback, who finally wrapped himself around the elusive pigskin, but was scored a safety. After the kickoff, the Giants scored a touchdown. They had the ball on Pottsville's 34-yard line. Then McBride shot a pass to Corrigan for 12-yard gain, and from the 22-yard line, McBride skirted left end, shook off his pursuers, and was over the line for a touchdown. When they finally overpowered him, the try for goal had failed. In the fourth period, Pottsville gave the Giants another safety. With a few minutes to go, the Giants broke loose for another touchdown. Wyckoff intercepted a pass on Pottsville's 35-yard line and threaded his way 35 yards to a touchdown. Haynes missed the try for the extra point. All right, let's see here. All right, there I go. Another one here. New York Giants hand Pottsville a 16-0 setback. Shear threatens to break loose several times, but defense is strong. The football Giants smashed their way to a 16-0 victory of the Pottsville Maroons, former champions, before some 10,000 fans. The other article said 20,000 fans. This one says 10,000. Fans at the Polo Grounds this afternoon. Tim Mara's tribe twice crossed the goal line, once in the first period and again near the end of the battle. The other 4 points came as the result of 2 safeties, something which doesn't happen more than once in a season. Now, the Giants were too big and powerful for the light maroon backfield and fairly smothered their players before they really got started. The Pottsville backfield men couldn't get by the clutching arms of big Cal Hubbard, Century Milsteed, the bald-headed Al Messer, and Fleet Steve Owen. Murtaugh and Stallman. Shearer, a former Notre Dame idol, started down the field several times with the ball tucked under his left arm Once or twice it looked as if he might get away and scampered down the field for a touchdown, but he never got more than 10 yards at any time before he was flung heavily to the ground by one of the Giants' heavyweights. In fact, the Giants' goal line was never really threatened in any one of the 4 periods. Jack Haggerty, former Georgetown star, McBride of Syracuse, and Mule Wilson of Texas Aggies did most of the ground gaining for the Giants. Got. All right, there's one more article here. This is a long one here. This is long. This might even have, this has almost this looks like I have some might even have the play-by-play and all and everything. I mean, these are like long. New York blanks Pottsville for second time when they won again at New York by the score of 16-0. I'll just read this here. Got now here. Let me zoom in on this here so I can see it here. Okay. The Pottsville Maroons went down to defeat at the hands of the New York Giants at New York on Sunday before a crowd of 20,000 people. The final score was 16-0. The Giants getting 8 points in the first quarter and the same number of counters in the fourth. McBride, former Syracuse star, scoring the first touchdown on a 22-yard dash off tackle, while Wyckoff, ex-Georgia Tech star, scored the second. A block kick and a pass that went over the goal line furnished the other 4 points on safeties. Pottsville got but 2 first downs, the Giants kicking and passing together with a tight line, keeping the Maroons from scoring. Both of the Giant goals were obtained on breaks that had they had been absent would have kept the Giants also scoreless. Well, yeah. I said that. Then there's says whether it was clear and warm, attendance there it says 15,000 and still coming in. At 2:33 p.m., the Maroons came on the field as the Maroons section broke forth with a mighty welcome. They were closely followed by the Giants, who were tender to cheer. The Giants won the toss and will defend the west goal. Pottsville will kick off. So I mean, and then there's like almost a play-by-play, but then, I mean, it's like, Henry kicked off. He kicked to the Wyckoff on the Giants' 20-yard line, who ran it back to the 42-yard line. McBride immediately smashed center for 10 yards and a first down. I mean, so it's pretty much play-by-play. But so I mean, for me to read all of it would wind up taking probably another 10 minutes or so. But you kind of get the gist of it. I mean, the Giants scored. There were 4 scores in the game. Right, the Giants scored a touchdown in the first quarter. They scored a touchdown in the last quarter. Then there were 2 safeties, and the Giants missed both extra points. So, but apparently, you listen to that and all and everything. The Giants just, as I said, it sounded like Pottsville only got 2 first downs. Right, the Giants, we're certainly the better team. Whatever the final score was, the better team wound up winning, and that was the New York Football Giants. So, that's what happened on this day, October 30th, 1927, in New York Football Giants history. See you next time.